Welcome back, all ye who wish to learn the secrets of how to be better at HoI4. Today we're going to be looking at which ground doctrine is actually the best. This is something I get asked in multiplayer a lot, and I mean by people playing Canada, people playing as Soviet Union, all these different countries, and even though I've done videos in the past, people still ask me all the time which ground doctrine is better. So that's what today we're going to be covering. First off, I just wanted to say before we get too far into this, there's not really a one beats all kind of option here. There is one option which is very, very good compared to the rest. However, there is no actual best doctrine. Hearts of Iron 4 really comes down to the way this game is built. There's never one thing that is better than the other thing. It's always based on who knows how to counter that item or that type of doctrine or that type of equipment or anything along those lines. If you know how to counter it with something, everything can kind of be countered. So today though, we are covering which one of these ground doctrines is probably the best option for everybody, but also what these doctrines do and how you can put them into how you are building your army. So let's get right into it. Now to start us out on our list, we're going to be going down mobile warfare first. Now mobile warfare is mostly based for armored and motorized countries really to start building just in general a ton of tank and motorized divisions. And honestly, it gives org bonuses for all infantry. Now that's actually really good. It's this one right here, and down here it gives some more org bonuses, which for motorized infantry and mech and Amtraks, not many people use Amtraks, but this is absolutely massive. You can in total get about 25 extra org for your motorized and mechanized infantry if you really want to go down this path. And that plus 25 extra org is pretty massive in all honesty and can actually help counterbalance armored divisions. Now over here, this is kind of complicated because this is only good for the extra 10 org for infantry, moto, and mech, right? All these other bonuses are only good for motorized and mechanized units. So unless you're going to go very heavy into motorized and mech, this side's not really worth it. It's nice to have the extra org bonus for your infantry. However, it's really going to be best used for motorized infantry and actual mechanized infantry. Down here over with a Blitzkrieg, we actually get some bonuses for breakthrough for tanks and stuff like that. But more importantly, it gives a little bit of an org bonus for tanks. Gives about 3 in total, a little bit of org bonus for your motorized infantry. But up here, this is the main part of this. It gives a plus 20% breakthrough for tanks, which that is the massive part of this side. So over here, the big deal is you can get up to 25 org for your mobile infantry. Over here, you can get an extra probably about 20% breakthrough for your tanks. Now, something else incredibly impressive, and this is what really puts the icing on the cake for people who use mobile warfare doctrine, is this one right here, which gives a planning speed bonus of 20%. But really down here with these two options. Over on the left side, you can do Desperate Defense. Over on the right, Modern Blitzkrieg. The biggest part of this whole tree, which is absolutely amazing to me, is this right here. These two different things right here. Getting Volkstrom can give you 2% recruitable pop. Down here, 3% for non-discriminatory conscription. Now, this right here is also big. Effect for our partisans, 10%. It's not too big, but I mean, it's still a noticeable difference people will have. Then over here with Modern Blitzkrieg, as you can see, we get some more organization bonus for our infantry. Down here, we get a tactic, and down here, we get another 20% for our breakthrough for our tanks. So, where does all this stand for mobile warfare? There are some pros and cons to this tree. Now, obviously, the pros are you can get a lot of bonuses for your armored and motorized divisions. Down here, you can get 5% recruitable pop. It sounds like an amazing tree. But really, it does not have only good things to say about it. What ends up happening is towards the later years, once you start choosing between Desperate Defense and Modern Blitzkrieg, if you have to go down Desperate Defense, Mobile Warfare Doctrine is useless to you at this point, and this is exactly why. Depending on what you went down up here, you are probably wasting a lot of your tree. Mobile Warfare Doctrine is mostly made for motorized, recovery rate bonuses and things like that. But the problem is, if you get to the point, in my opinion, where you have to actually take these because of the manpower bonuses, that's kind of the point where you're not making motorized divisions anymore. You're using this tree exclusively for the manpower bonus, which compared to the rest of the trees, which we'll cover, using this tree just for the manpower bonus is not a good idea at all. This tree is mainly meant for people who are going to use a lot of motorized divisions, armor divisions, cavalry divisions even. Technically that counts as an infantry division if I remember correctly. Let's see really quick just to make sure. Or, well, no, it's actually under mobile warfare, but it's kind of weird how it works. It's technically counted as an infantry. I don't understand why. But basically, honestly, in my opinion, this doctrine is only good for nations like Germany if you're going to go hardcore mobile warfare, or the United States is one nation that can really pull this off to the limits, and they go down modern blitzkrieg. Next up on our list, we get to superior firepower. And yes, I know what I said earlier, but in my opinion, this is one of the best doctrines. If not, possibly technically speaking, it actually is the best option for you and best doctrine inside of Hearts of Iron 4, and there's a lot of good reasons for this, and it's kind of simple, really. Superior firepower is really made for the early and late game, alright? So, not this middle part over here, I guess you could call it, the little section where it finally branches off. This is not really necessary for the kind of, like, beginning or end of the war. This is kind of one of those weird areas, because you're not really putting a lot of support companies and divisions by the time you're ready to start researching this stuff. But once you get down here, this is the point where nations like the United States or the Soviet Union, nations that could really use this, start going into war. And by the time you get down here, you usually already have this stuff already picked out for you, and that's when you can either choose shock and awe or air-land battles. So the thing with superior firepower, it's really for early game and late game. See, here's how at least I come up to this realization. Basically, the first three things you get with this doctrine are massive, right? You get a plus 20% soft attack bonus for every single type of equipment or troop you can field. That all frontline battalions, that is everything inside of your arsenal that you can get inside of Hearts of Iron 4. That means everything you own will have a plus 20% soft attack bonus, which is huge. Then we get down here to your leg infantry. Your regular infantry, they will have an extra 10 org. And down here, all infantry and motorized and mechanized divisions plus 20% defense. These three things are really made for the early game, and they are absolutely amazing, okay? At least in terms of the early game, nothing can come even close to that. Next up on our list for this little section here is integrated support and dispersed support. Honestly, I don't really recommend dispersed support unless you're doing an 8-8, and that's still kind of iffy. I personally prefer and highly recommend doing integrated support, and I'm going to show you exactly why right now, because when you see this, you're going to realize how overpowered this can be. Click. There we go. So basically, we're going to go ahead and get our doctrine here really quick, and I'm not going to do that just yet. Next, we're going to go over here to artillery, and we're just going to pretend we're making a regular template, right? Just a regular, template of whatever, okay? I just wanted to make that up really quick. So here's what we could do. If we say had a 20 width 7.2, right? I normally don't really make these very often in multiplayer. I usually go all infantry or something like that, depending on what I'm doing. But here we have a 7.2, which is one of the most common divisions in the game. Now, here's the difference, all right? If we throw an extra support artillery on here, we can get, as you can see right there, that's an extra 40 soft attack we're not even having to pay for because we already have a rocket artillery in there. So basically, what you can do is throw 2 artillery in there because you get bonuses for your support companies with the right-hand side. So right now we're at 149, and support artillery, boom. We just went up about 70 soft attack in total. I would say about 70 soft attack with no extra organization penalties. And as you can see, when we add these kind of things, the org doesn't go down anywhere close to as much compared to if we didn't have that bonus. Because again, what this stuff is doing, if you look under superior firepower, integrated support is giving an organization bonus to your support companies and a soft attack bonus. It just basically does the exact same thing twice. You get a plus 50% soft attack for all your support companies and an extra 10 or extra 20 org in total. Compared to over here where your line artillery gets a 10% soft attack, which isn't really that impressive, and the recovery rate is only 0.20, which again is not that great. Later down here, you actually get to choose one of really 2 options, and I think it's going to be kind of obvious what you want to do. So over here, as you can see, breakthrough 10, whatever. But then we branch out into airland battle or shock and awe. Now, shock and awe is good, but it's not really got that many great bonuses. Sorry about that. As I was saying, under shock and awe, really the best kind of bonus that I would say you could probably get in here is maybe the fact that you can kind of get some extra soft attack and org. I mean, it's not really that noticeable. It's more like 10% soft attack for artillery support and line units. You know, a little bit extra for infantry. It's not that great. If you're going down this tree, by far, especially if you can get air superiority, the left-hand side is better. Not because of this, even though that's nice. Not because of this, but this. This gives you a plus 20% air superiority bonus whenever you're using superior firepower if you have air superiority over the enemy. Now you might be thinking, 20%, that's not a big deal, right? Well, if you go down, say, either one of these, you can go down operational integrity or strategic destruction. But under strategic destruction, for having air superiority, you can give enemy ground troops 15% penalty. Give me a second here. Where is it? 15%. Then we have another 15%. So now we're at 30. Then if you go down here and get this, now you're up to a 50% penalty you give to the enemy if they don't have AA and you have air superiority. That is a 50% penalty to their defensive stats, which is absolutely massive. I mean, think, if someone's got a division with 800 defense, it just plummeted down to 400. So that means that this division right here could probably pierce them if I just, like, I don't know, add something kind of crazy in there. Probably like 3 of these could actually break a division with 800 defense if they had air superiority and that doctrine. So that's absolutely insane when you really get down to thinking about it. So really the best option for superior firepower is integrated support every single time, I can guarantee it, along with air-land battle. If you know you're not going to get air superiority, you've pretty much lost if you're the Allies. But if you're the Axis and you know you're not going to get air superiority, shock and awe is not necessarily a bad choice, but still air-land battle is a little bit nicer because it gives heart attack bonuses, which means enemy armor is going to get absolutely shredded, and a reinforced raid right here. Now, see, here's the thing though, I do try at the end of these to kind of point out some pros and flaws with these. Now, one of the, well, not really one of, but a couple big problems with superior firepower though is this is relying on 2 things. First off, you're gonna have enough production to adequately fill all of your divisions pretty much to the max with support companies. That's what this whole doctrine is expecting you to do. If you're not going to have an incredibly good type of like production, this is not going to be the good one for you, because down here, these really rely on you having air superiority, and this one up here relies on you basically having a very good amount of support equipment being in your divisions and actually support, you know, have it full. It's expecting you to have them mostly full with support companies. So if you're playing a nation that's not going to have a ton of good production and it's not really going to be able to do that much, this is not the doctrine for you. This is for majors like the United States, Soviet Union, Russia, and so on. Now, usually people do not care about this doctrine, but this is actually a really good doctrine if it's used correctly, and that is the Grand Battle Plan Doctrine. I like to really call it the Great War Doctrine, even though ironically, and you guys are going to see how crazy this is, this doctrine actually has a lot of similarities to mobile warfare. It's actually insane how similar mobile warfare and Grand Battle Plan really are. Usually what throws people off is when they look at this doctrine, they see this right here, right off the bat. Entrenchment speed, plus 25%. Max entrenchment, plus 10. Then they go down, max planning, 10%. But then they see this plus 10% defense. Then they see this like little breakthrough. They like think, oh, this doctrine's worthless. It's got nothing great. It's got no major soft attack bonuses, you know, except for 5%. It's got no major org bonuses except for right here, and it's only 10. You know, it's mostly a defensive doctrine. No, this is not a mostly defensive doctrine. It's actually a really good one if you use it right. Now, basically, once you get done with these first few things up here, it branches off into 2 options. You either can do assault or you can do infiltration. Now, both trees are pretty similar except for a very couple-ish small things. So first off, infiltration in total gives you about a 25% bonus for night attack, which is right here. This is probably the big part of this tree, at least in my opinion. Now think, what this means right here, this land night attack bonus, there's 24 hours in a day, obviously, and that goes for Hearts of Iron 4. There's 24 hours in game a day, right? That means for 12 hours, your divisions are going to have, at least until people get night vision goggles, which isn't until 43. That means that until about 42 to 43-ish, you're going to have a plus 25% attack bonus that your enemy is not going to have, at least again until 1943. So this is actually really good. But also down this tree, there's also, if I can find it, a nice little bonus here for negative 10% supply consumption. This basically means that you're getting one free logistics company inside of all of your divisions, which also cuts down on supply usage. Now, or correction, fuel usage. So even though it doesn't list it, it does cut down. I've tried it, I've tested it. So oops, wrong one. But basically infiltration, the two big things you can get out of infiltration are that little 10% supply bonus and then the plus 25% land night attack. You also get a couple things like org and reconnaissance, reinforce rate, but really those are the big things in the infiltration side. Now, as for the assault path in total gives you about a 20% bonus because of all this stuff up here. So up here, let's see, 10% planning bonus, and I believe it's also, yeah, right here. The first two give you about, or not the first two, but a little bit into the tree, you can get about a 20% max planning bonus. Now, here's why that actually is very good. If you pair that up with your signal companies for maybe your tanks or whatever you're doing, maybe, you know, you're the British, it doesn't really matter. It's based on your play style, right? So if you add that along with all of these right here, that's going to give you around a 70% planning speed bonus if you go down infiltration and actually get the bonuses for max planning, because it's not just up there, right? You have this one for 10%. Oops. Then you have this one for 10% plus the one up here, another 10%. So you already have a 30% bonus. And then you take four signal companies, which boosted up 10% each. You're looking at a 70% soft attack increase of basically not just soft attack, but everything on the offense. You will have a 70% bonus for attacking people. Now, unfortunately, that does also become part of the flaw for this, because even though that sounds absolutely impressive, and that's really, in my opinion, the only bonus that this side has over this side because of that planning bonus. Whenever you attack somebody, and I'm sure you guys will notice this, you'll experience it, but sometimes, and actually I think we're going to swap over to Germany here really quick to show this example, but here's what will sometimes happen in a game, right? If we have two divisions, right here, this is a good example. We could say have a front line set up and we're ordering it to go to Brest-le-Windsgray, or whatever it is. So you can see it says that they'll go through this path, right? Sometimes if you have a superior, or correction, a max planning speed bonus, it will still attack to the sides. So if we were to say like add these few divisions and I throw it on 5 speed really quickly, sometimes if we go to war, we might be wanting to attack this guy versus this guy or whatever. The divisions will not go through this empty corridor. Instead, sometimes the way the battle plan works, it's just going to straight up attack one of the troops here no matter what. Sometimes it will go through, sometimes it won't. Now the problem is, when you do attack, as you can see, we have a planning speed bonus, right? Right now it's about 10%. If you move your troops away, even on 1 speed, right? Well, actually, let's bump it up. But basically, the planning bonus... Oh, actually, yeah, it just plummeted. You saw it. Like, over 1 day, it just dropped from 10% to 0. So, basically, over 1 day, it basically dropped down a lot. So, if you have to order your troops around, you might have a few days of being able to actually manually attack before the bonus is completely gone and any extra bonuses your enemy has over you come into effect. Finally, we get over here to mass assault. The entire point of this doctrine is to get as many, and I mean as many decent divisions out as possible. Now, what I mean by that is really 3 combat widths. Now, I know I've said in other videos that people misunderstood about combat width sizes, but really you want something like either this right here, where it's just a simple 10 width division, like this, which I'll get to later on how to do it correctly. Something like this, just a little 10 width only for, 10 width only for something like defense, then maybe something like a 20 width like this for defense, and then maybe a 40 width that would be something like, you know, I would just say a 14-4, just 4 artillery and 14 infantry until you get it up to a 40 width. Then later on, you can actually upgrade a little bit if you really want to. And just because OCD will drive me absolutely insane, there we go. Oh, that's still going to drive me nuts. Just for the sake of it. Something like this. You know, it's really all based on those kind of 3 templates that you really want to start deploying as soon as possible if you're going to be going down Mass Assault Doctrine. Now, in the first 3 areas here for the Mass Assault Doctrine, actually gives some pretty big bonuses. First off, we get a minimum training level reduction, which is, for the Soviet Union and China, that's automatically gone right off the bat, but then a 2% reinforcement rate. Then down here, we get an out-of-supply penalty reduction, a supply grace, not too great, but then we get down here, it's a little tiny bonus to org for infantry and max entrenchment. So these are kind of good bonuses, but this is really the best one to help out with early game. Now, the reason is because of this reinforce rate you see right here. Now, it actually tells you straight up what this is. Chance per hour the units in reserve are actually able to join the fight. Now, what this is whenever you're, basically, if you have a unit in combat, you look at the battle. Now, at the bottom of the battle, it will end up saying reserves, and it'll have a bunch of units listed. Hover over them, and it will say the chance of them joining. What ends up happening is once there's space in the battle, right? Once there's space available, like one of your units has been retreated, one of those extra reserves every hour has this reinforcement rate as a chance, constantly stacking about the chance that it's going to join. It's kind of complicated, but if you click on a battle, if you have a reinforcement rate and just watch it, you'll see it actually go into effect. Now, here's how big of a deal this actually is, right? If you do this right here, that's a 2% reinforcement rate. Then go over to here, my bad, and get radio. That's a 5%. Now, when you add those numbers together, you get about a 7% reinforcement rate as the Soviet Union, or really whoever has Mass Assault Doctrine, has really early on. Now, that means if, say, you have 20 divisions in a battle, and you basically are going to have, let's just say 80 combat width, in basically 14 hours, all of your divisions are going to have a 100% chance guaranteed to actually join the battle. That is huge. Now, after you get done with that beginning little section, you get 2 choices. You're either going to go down deep battle or mass mobilization. Now, these are actually very different, and I'm going to kind of sum it up in a very easy way. Mass mobilization's big bonuses is really altogether, it gets about, I think it's a 25% reinforcement rate altogether, including what you get up here in the first place. And that's going to have you basically a 32% reinforcement rate without a signal company, which is massive. Again, that's why mass mobilization. It's literally the whole idea of getting as many decent divisions as you can out in the battle to hopefully wear down your enemy to the point where they're undersupplied, under-equipped, and then you can just steamroll them back over, basically. It also, if you go down here, gives you a reinforce rate again. Where is it? Here it is. This one right here is massive. This gives you a 5% recruitable pop, but also the infantry combat width goes down negative 0.04. Now, that's good and bad, and I'll give that a little bit of explanation to you later. But as you can see here, this whole doctrine is made for infantry charges. It's just made to just steamroll your men towards the line, just attack as much as you can. Now, if you're going to use that side of the doctrine for that purpose, let me show you a really good example really quick here. I'm just going to grab these 3 guys and put them in their own group just so I can do this. So you would have 2 battle groups. 2 battle groups, okay? You would basically overlap the front line. So we're going to do 2 front lines right on top of each other, and we could extend this as long as we want. Now, what we would do is have one of our groups on an offensive order, set him to aggressive, and order him to attack. Now, this second army group of ever how many divisions would not do anything. It would sit there. So that way, only some of your divisions are losing organization, and if you get counterattacked, you're not going to get pushed out as easily. Now, whenever we go over here, and basically a good idea to think about this doctrine to decide what it is, basically imagine historical Soviet Union I would say Stalingrad in beforehand, okay? Just imagine mass mobilization, just send as many men to the front as possible. So then we get over here to Deep Battle Plan, which is actually really, really good. So over here on Deep Battle Plan, you're going to get about a 30% bonus towards your partisans. Wait, or was it? Nope, I am sorry. I'm thinking of this one. Anyway, back to what I was saying. Over here on the left-hand side, the best point of the Deep Battle Plan tree is you get a 20% supply reduction altogether added up. Then you also get a negative 25% organization loss when moving. And I think the combat with, yep, it's right here. The negative combat with bonus also applies over here as well. So really this is more towards helping you out with supply issues and not losing as much organization when you're moving. And honestly, that's not really a problem in the first place, at least in my experience. You know, when troops are moving, right here's the bonus I'm talking about. That's nice, but it's not really necessary. It's just, I've never noticed organization to be that big of an issue where towards the end of the fight, like, it's going to make that big of a difference. Usually you stop on the line, you build up a little bit of a planning bonus, and then you just attack. Even manually attack, you still build up a little bit of a bonus, so you get that bonus at the very start of the fight. But going back again here, these are some cons and kind of just basically some cons to actually going out Mass Assault as well. One of the biggest issues with Mass Assault is one of its best, really its best things in my opinion. It's this combat with thing, right? So if we were to turn on research really quick here, let's just do that. And see, this is why I don't ever actually, research. I can't do it unless I say it to myself on icon, click. Can't chew gum and talk. So basically, again, the big problem with this tree over here is this. You can't really make a 20 width anymore, right? Well, I mean, you sort of can, and I'm going to show you. But, yeah, you get the extra infantry in here, but look, you can't get it to 20 width, right? What this means is whenever you go into battle, you're going to definitely, one way or another, have a penalty for being over combat width. Now, that's going to hurt you definitely because you're going to get a penalty assigned to all of your divisions just because something's not going to fit in there correctly. And it's exclusively because of that bonus, because you're going to get, well, you're going to get negative combat with infantry. So that's probably the, in my opinion, biggest problem with Mass Assault. But another huge problem as well is there's not really any major bonuses to soft attack or anything like that compared to the other one. This is all stuff based on charging infantry, just, you know, until very later on. Org bonuses, recovery bonuses, manpower, combat with bonuses. That's all that this tree is good for. It's just send your troops at the men and try to wear them down. Compared to the other doctrines, all of them have some kind of really good defensive bonuses or breakthrough, you know, soft attack, something like that is usually what most of them have, especially over here. So, you know, when it gets down to it, mobile warfare doctrines for people who are going to be, again, in general, just using a ton of motorized, go down this side, tons of tanks and motorized, go down this side. Again, desperate defense, if you get down to this point, you're already in trouble and you're kind of destroying the doctrine, but if you have to, take desperate defense. That's really what you should do. Or if you have more enough manpower, go down modern blitzkrieg. This can't hurt you any worse than going down desperate defense, because you can always swap back later if you actually need that manpower. Superior firepower is mostly made for if you have enough production to actually fully equip your support divisions and be able to get air superiority. Then we go over here to Grand Battle Plan again. This is most for countries that are not going to be using a lot of tanks and they just want bonuses to planning speed. They want less supply consumption, you know, stuff like that. This helps out a lot. So probably actually Japan, it would work really good for, especially the right side infiltration over here really early on. Especially that night attack bonus against China and multiplayer, it'd be great. Then over here with Mass Assault, this one's mostly made to just give you support bonuses, get you charged infantry. So anyway, guys, yeah, hopefully that wrapped up the big question I keep getting asked in multiplayer over and over and over again. What doctrine do I go down? So anyway, don't forget to subscribe if you like this content and you want to see more of it, because every time you subscribe, it helps me out, makes me a little bit more powerful to one day take on Tommy K in a actual live stream maybe, because he's not going to fight me again otherwise. Anyway, guys, again, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Stay awesome.